Contestants, are you ready to play the apocalypse? Hi guys, so the other night I moved on to Wrong Turn 2, Dead End. Got to get my subtitles right. This one was directed by Joe Lynch. You might remember him from such films as The Knights of Badassdom and Chillerama. And I guess at some point he got his hands on this Wrong Turn sequel, and he's gone for a much lighter feel than what the first movie had. I guess because this one was straight to video and because it didn't have the actors from the first one, and because there was no story left to tell after the original film, he's just decided to go his own way, do something completely different. But there's a killer idea at the heart of this one, this concept of a survivor-type TV show called The Apocalypse. It gives us a really good excuse to have more people ending up in the vicinity of the Mountain Men. So we're not just copying how the original film began, but with an idea like this, you've got to go lighter, because when you have TV shows like this in real life, it's full of cheesy characters and situations and stuff. But we're not talking Texas Chainsaw 2 levels of comedy in this film. This is still a horror film at its heart. It just has a few more humorous moments in it than the first movie did. Plus, we've sacrificed some of the tension from the first movie in exchange for a bit more splatter, I'd say. This film having characters wearing headsets and things and being part of a TV show, it does remind me a lot of Halloween Resurrection, but I think horror fans in general will be more forgiving of this film than Halloween Resurrection for following this path. For one thing, even people who like Wrong Turn are generally going to be more chilled out about the franchise experimenting with different things. You know, when it comes to Halloween, everything's deadly serious. You know, every film has to copy the template of the original or Halloween 4. We can't go off the beaten track. We can't try new things. You know, that's unacceptable because it's Halloween. But Wrong Turn, that's different. You know, Wrong Turn can go and experiment and do different things, and we'll be chilled out about it, even if it gets those things wrong, you know. And another reason why I think people would appreciate this film more than Halloween Resurrection, just that a Survivor-type TV show, it's always going to work better in the woods, I think, than some tiny little house on a residential street. But that's a problem for Halloween Resurrection. The cast in this has got 2 or 3 names that I've come across before in various horror films, but the women I did recognise in this film seem to be playing the exact same roles that I've seen them play in other films, which is kind of weird. So we've got Leerhsen, who plays Nina, and she seems to be playing the exact same depressed goth that she played in Blair Witch 2. It's like the characters just jumped through a portal into this movie. And we also get Daniela Alonso playing the same G.I. Jane in fatigues that she would go on to play in The Hills Have Eyes 2 the following year, except this character here is a lesbian. I'm not sure the character in Hills Have Eyes was. Incidentally, one of the best lines in this movie is when somebody says to this character, "You're a lesbian, where's your cojones?" It would be an absolutely hideous line if it was said in real life, but in this movie we can sort of just have a laugh with it. I'm going into spoiler territory now for Wrong Turn 2, so if you don't want to know how this film ultimately pans out, then it's time to go and watch one of the better channels on your subscriptions list. So we get a twist about half an hour into this. We find out that the girl we thought was going to be the final girl isn't, but this totally fooled me, and I'd seen a lot of horror films prior to watching Wrong Turn 2, believe me. So we've got this character, Mara. She's the producer on the Apocalypse TV show, but she's not like the girls who are the contestants. You know, she's a shy, quiet, mousy type. She's good looking, but quiet. You know, she's the sort of girl who would probably spend Sunday afternoons studying instead of being out socialising. You know, she's the sort of girl guys only really fancy once they've grown up a little bit, shall we say, which is certainly not her boyfriend in this film. But when Mara realises that she's going to have to step in as a contestant because one of the other girls hasn't turned up, she really freaks out about it. Like, at first she's like, "Oh, I can't do this. I'm not like those other girls. I just can't do it." But we, the audience, we're thinking, this is typical final girl behaviour. I mean, this is final girl 101. You know, she's shy, she can't do it, she's the weakest in the group, but by the end of the film, she'll rise up, she'll discover her inner strength, and in the final scenes, she'll be cutting through those mutants like a knife through butter. You know, we know how this is going to play out, except in this film we don't, because Mara gets offed. But in the beginning, I mean, you will totally think that she's the final girl. At the start of this, she might as well have like a nameplate that says Final Girl written on her. You know, if this was a musical, then at the point where she finds out she's got to be in the apocalypse, all the other characters around the campfire would just freeze frame, a spotlight would shine down on Mara, and she'd stand up and start singing a ballad, something like, I guess the life of a final girl is never easy. But no, she's taken out and replaced by Nina, played by Erica Leerhsen. But the best character in the movie is not Nina or Mara. It's whoever Henry Rollins is playing. Now, this guy is not really an actor. If you look on his filmography, or his Wikipedia page, I should say, he's more a musician than an actor. So how he got into this film, I don't know. But wow, his character is absolutely amazing. He's like an ex-army guy, and he's now the presenter of The Apocalypse. But he's so funny. I was just hugely entertained by this character from the off. But at the same time, I expected him to die, because characters like this usually die very early in horror films because they're so obviously the toughest in the group. You just expect the film to take them out. You know, when characters like this die, it's a good way to showcase the villains as being really tough. Plus, it's a way of saying, wow, look how much deep shit the other characters are in now that their toughest protector has been taken out. Think Apone in Aliens, or Colin Salmon in Resident Evil 1, you know. But this film knows that you're expecting this character to die. That's the clever thing, because there's a moment where he's sort of knocked out and you think, well, I knew this character was going to die. I called it, and now it's happened. But then it turns out he's not dead. He manages to escape captivity, and he goes on a rampage, and he starts taking it to the freaks, and it's glorious. It's so much fun watching a guy with this skill set take it to these villains. It's so enjoyable to watch. I mean, compare this character to Desmond Harrington's lead guy from the first film, and it's no comparison. I mean, that doctor character, I mean, yeah, he'd be useful at putting a plaster on Alicia Dushko's arm, but would he have ever been able to strap sticks of dynamite to a bow and arrow? Hell no! If you watched my review for the first film, you might remember that I had a real issue with the guy who had the horrible teeth, the gas station owner. I'm disappointed to announce that he's back in this film, but he dies in this one. He gets blown up by dynamite, and it was a joyous moment to behold, believe me. But even before then, I think the director of this film must have had the same issue as me watching the first one, because whereas in the first movie, the camera seemed to be directly in front of this guy's teeth, so you could see his gums in all their disgusting glory, or lack of. In this film, the camera seems to be looking at this guy when he delivers his lines from an angle, kind of, so his teeth don't look quite as bad. I don't know if that was just me, but yeah, he's dead, so we won't be seeing him again, although some of those later films are prequels. Oh, shit. So he might be back, come to think of it. I don't remember him being in any more, but I mean, I've seen most of these films. The only one I haven't seen is number 5. But in the ones I have seen, I don't remember him popping up again. But then again, I didn't remember him being in this one either, so who knows. The other characters that I haven't mentioned are pretty good for the most part. You would think that with this film being based around a Survivor-type show, it would be full of morons, and in the hands of other writers, directors, maybe it would have been. But what this film does is, yes, it does depict the characters as being slightly idiotic to begin with, because they're sort of playing up to the cameras a little bit. But once the film moves past the TV show and into proper real-world survival, you see the real characters coming out more with these people, and they're just normal, decent people for the most part. The one-dimensional characters tend to die quite early in this, the slutty girl and one or two others, the cheating boyfriend. But the characters who last a long time in this, you get to see their real sides to them underneath, and they're quite nice people. Like the girl Erica Leersen's playing, she's got a bit of a self-harming problem, and one of the guys talks to her a little bit about that and just makes her feel a little bit better just for a minute or so, and this just allows us to empathise with that character a little bit. There's another guy who's like, he comes across like this big hulky sports jock to begin with, and the owner of the Apocalypse show wants him to have an on-screen romance with the slutty girl. You know, he's thinking of them in lines of stereotypes, but as the film goes on and all that Apocalypse stuff just fades into the distance, this guy you think is a sports jock, it turns out he's not really like that at all. He just wants to get a PhD in biochemistry or something like that. So there's some really decent people underneath these Apocalypse personas, and as the film goes on, that comes out. I don't really have any negatives for this film. The whole thing does get a little bit chaotic at times, but that's also the film's biggest strength. You know, once all the characters go off into the woods, we are kind of bouncing around from one character to another, and it all feels very loosely assembled. Like the first film had a much more orderly structure. We were following one group of people, and it was a very streamlined adventure, very easy to follow, very easy to remember in the aftermath. Whereas this one, I think I could watch this film 100 times and still have no clue which scenes are going to lead into other scenes, you know, because it's such a jumble of situations that you get. But that's just a characteristic of this film. It is one big splatterfest of random stuff going on, but it's both a good thing and a bad thing. So I guess I can't really actually call it a negative. I love the song that plays on the end credits of this as well. I don't think I've mentioned that so far. An improved soundtrack, I would say, over the first film as well. If it came to choosing between the two films, I think technically the first film is better, but the second one is just my preferred Wrong Turn film of choice somehow. It just makes me happier. If I had to choose between them, if I could only watch one of them again for the rest of my life, I think it would have to be number 2 somehow, but there we go. A couple more really cool moments I just want to touch upon before I wrap up. So, 2 of the younger freaks, they're having an incestuous relationship. I guess this entire clan is all about the incest, now that I think about it. But these 2 teenage lovers, or brother and sister or whatever. So, the brother, he's looking through the tree line, spying on the slutty girl at one point as she's undressing next to this stream. And his sister comes along and berates him for doing that. I mean, I totally understand his position because this slutty girl is absolutely gorgeous, whereas his sister just looks absolutely horrible. But later on, some of the other characters stumble across these 2 and they're having sex in the woods, but the girl has taken the face off the dead slutty girl, who's dead by this point, and put it on herself just to please her lover. But it's actually really good writing because it just gave me a chuckle. But yeah, it's just really weird that these characters would do this, but I kind of liked it as well. And then another really cool moment is in the finale, the final fight. There's like a wood chipper machine thing that's spinning around, and the fact that some of the freaks end up going into this machine, I thought was a really good way for them to meet their maker. I just really liked that as well. I'll quickly show you the version of the film that I've got for this. I showed this when I did my Wrong Turn 1 review as well, because I've got these films on like a big box set. It's got the first 6. It's a German edition, so I can't watch any of the features, but the picture quality is decent. It's not high definition. It's more like a really strong DVD version masquerading as a Blu-ray, really, but it's still good enough to suit your needs. I don't have a problem with it personally. Right, let's get to the bag of terror and find out how I'm going to score this. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 bloody axes out of 5. This film is superb. It shouldn't be this good, and yet somehow it is. It's so much fun. It's got great kills and situations and good characters, and I don't have that much that's bad to say about it, in all honesty. Like I said, it is one of the best number 2s I think I've ever seen in horror, and for me it just about is better than the first one. So there we go. Right, I'll be back soon to review the 3rd Wrong Turn film. Until next time, cheerio, bye bye.